The human eye loves order, so ensuring everything's aligned and put out evenly is an amazing way to calm their eye, make the design comfortable, and allow them to see the information. And it's very simple as far as just ensuring that all the lines match up. If you have boxes, they're all going to be in the exact same row. All the text is going to be exactly level with one another, just ensuring that you can imagine visual lines going through your design and having all the elements snap to them. Even better inside Canva, it comes with a lot of built-in tools to help you with the alignment, both with the actual position button, which will show inside the design, as well as you're dragging it around, you'll notice they'll try to show you these pink lines to help you align everything. So let's take a look at some before and afters and see how we can use it to create better looking designs. Let's see here. Here we go. So we just have a presentation today and we've messed up a little bit with the alignment, and we're going to improve it and see some befores and afters. So there's no real sense of alignment, and we're going to fix it up. Now, this isn't to say things always have to be completely squared, but it's probably a place you should start at and then decide if you want to break the alignment to create some visual interest. But for today's purpose, we're going to focus on aligning everything, and I suggest it's a great place for you to start to make sure your designs look great. So here with the initial landing page, you have big bold text, but these boxes and the text are just kind of floating all over. Let's get that aligned and see where we'd get to. So I'll create a copy so we can do a before and after. Let's see, so the font here is a bit all over. So let's put it down to the size of that. But more importantly, what I want to do is ensure that these two line up on the left side. And now that's for the actual background box. I'm going to want to ensure that the text also lines up on the left side. Now, I mentioned those pink lines within Canva. So as you see, as I'm dragging, it's bringing up all those pink lines to try to align it for me. As I bring it to the edge, it's lining up to the left side of this box. Now you can, if you just click and drag, I'm going to unselect the back here. With a number of items selected, you come up to the top of the action bar, you go to position, and you say left. That will align every element, the box of every element, to the left side. You'll see that also exists for center. So it'll cut everything down the middle, have it center aligned, and of course, right. You'll see too when we get to some more vertical ones, it'll also align everything to a top line, in the middle, or the bottom. But let's have this go left aligned, and I want to show you also something to note. So as I mentioned, it's going to try to show you pink lines the entire time I'm dragging it here to help you align it. See, it's even lining up with the top of the March 5th. You have the tool with position like we just said, but with all of that, what you'll notice is we said position left, but the left of this font, the left of this P, is not aligned with the left of this X. So another way to do here, we go back to our familiar tool if you've taken the previous course about a square, so the alignment square. So what you do is just bring it on, go to what you're trying to align it to, and now we have a visual reference that we can use to line up the corner of the X as well. So as much as the tools are amazing for alignment, you're going to need to be cognizant and aware so that you can make these updates and edits if it comes about. So I just want to make that a little further to give it the proper spacing. And there we have it. So now everything's nicely aligned on the left side, more orderly than this, which was just kind of flowing and chaotic. So we lined everything up using the position on the top right here and choosing the left alignment, and then we used the square trick because the particular alignments of using those tools didn't actually align the letters themselves. They aligned the boxes, which made it unaligned given how the fonts were responding. So all of a sudden it's much more aligned, it's orderly, it looks really nice. So let's keep going with some more examples here. So same type of effect here, so it's just a big number slide, but we have the large number up top, text here below, and as you can see it's all kind of just floating around, so it looks kind of disorganized. So let's go ahead and using what we know and organize it. We'll create a copy so we can see it. Now we can see that this is currently center, this text. So we'll click into the text, I'll come to the action bar, we'll see alignment, and I'll keep clicking till it gets over to the right side. Let's make sure these other ones are right, because if your text is left, if the text alignment is left, then the text is reading from the left as opposed to being centered or right. Even if so if it's left, it's aligned. If the text itself, the words are aligned to the left, but then you try to align the box to the right, you're going to get some really weird shapes. So we want everything to kind of be stemming from that right side. So I'm going to make sure, in this particular case, it could be left or center. But in our case, we want it to be on the right, so we want to make sure the text is kind of coming from the right side. So everything kind of mats up nicely with that right bar. So to do so now, we'll click the three of them, 1, 2, and 3. Problem is it's called alignment and alignment, so it's difficult to describe the two. But text being right aligned, so it's coming from the right side, and then we'll align the 3 text boxes themselves on the right side as well. So everything comes from the right. Selecting those 3, we'll go position and align elements, and we go right. There we have it, 1, 2, 3, nice and ordered. So we come back here. You can see how the text was just floating around, bit of chaos, no real flow to it. So simply by ensuring that all the text was coming from the right side in this case, that's how that looks. Now, again, this works either way. So if we select those 3 and we make the text instead left aligned, we then, let's bring it over here to have a different effect, and then position and left. It remains true no matter what side you're doing it on. It's just important to have these left sides aligned. Now, per our other discussion, if we visually look at the left side of this 9, it's not matching up with that A. The spacing's a bit different. So according to the program, it's aligned, which it is on the text box, but we can see visually it's not. That's the benefit of knowing this, is that you can go beyond the limitations of the software. So we bring in a square again. Let's line it up to the side of the A. And let's just squeak over that 9 so to make sure it's actually truly aligned. Subtle difference, but important. We want the actual content here to be aligned, not just the boxes. So tell you what, I'm going to duplicate this because I kind of like this left side alignment. But let's bring this back over to the right side. So I'll choose the 3. We'll make it right aligned, the text itself. We'll bring it over. I'm going to position. So I've selected the 3. I'm in the action bar. I go to the right with position and align on the right, the text boxes themselves. Now let's get this box out of here. Where was it? So here's a really useful tip. If you are trying to recreate elements from one slide to the other, don't be afraid to come back and copy what you want and then paste. What's really great with Canva is it'll always paste in place from the previous slide. And then we'll send it back. There we go. So nicely aligned on the right side. We can see in this case here that the D and the letters below nicely line up with the O. Now it slightly comes outside of it, but given that it's italic, that's not much of a design concern for us, as much as it was the 9 not touching the left side of here. So we fixed that up. So we started with chaos, and by some simple alignment, we made it nice and orderly, nice and clean. And then as a bonus, we also tossed it over to the left side to see that alignment you can obviously put on either side. Let's continue here. So this one's super interesting. So this is where there's elements and there's a lot of different alignment problems going on. So as you can kind of visually see, firstly there's this text here that is just floating up in the middle. No real order. It's not purposeful. It feels like a mistake. So a couple ideas would either be have it left aligned. So left aligned feels like it's on purpose, and that's left aligned to the leftmost box, or center it. Center it for the entire thing. Now, trick for that is if you want to make sure that the text is centered in the entire canvas space, grab the edges and drag the text box you have to the entire width of the space, and then center it. So this way you're not trying to play around with figuring out where exactly the center is of anything. Instead, it's the box itself extends the entire way, and then you can just center it, guaranteeing your text is in the center. Now onto the boxes themselves. You know what? I did not duplicate this for comparison. So let's undo our small trick there, duplicate, and let's quickly just recreate that. So I want that centered in the entire slide, so I drag it out and then center the text. Now the boxes themselves. you can just visually see something's wrong. And so let's break it down and see what's up. So we can see if we kind of come across the top here, doesn't feel like the tops are all aligned. So that'd be a good place to start. Now at this point, it looks like they're all individual elements. So to work with all of them as cards in their entirety, we're going to group them and then align the groups. So what I mean by that is we'll select everything, come up to the action bar at the top right, and group. Faster way to do that is if you select it all and then press Control or Command G. That's a keyboard shortcut to do the same thing. Now we're going to come back and align the boxes themselves, but for now we're just going to focus on this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to want to ensure a couple things. If you took the spacing one already, we want to ensure that the spacing is the same on at least the left and the right, and maybe even the bottom. But bottom we'll worry about later. Let's first ensure that the left and the right spacing is the same. Let's bring that over to the right side, and it is not. So that'll be the first trick. Let's make sure the spacing is exactly the same on the sides. Let's get rid of that. And now let's select the 4, because there are 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've selected the 4 items. We're going to go up to the action bar and over on Position, Space Evenly, Horizontally. There we have it. So now it's going to be 4 even spaces, nicely aligned, going across. Now, we can still see, though, you can see with this nice line that clearly they're not aligned on the top. So they're not in alignment with each other on the top. So we're going to go to Position and Align Top. There we go, looking great. Now I'm curious if the width of all of these are the same. So again, square trick, just to do a measurement. So that's the width of one. So you see we have an issue where this one is not as wide as this one. Now is that... So currently it all seems like they're entirely different widths. So we're going to have to actually redo our spacing because we spaced them when they are different widths, which mean the computer had to find different spacing between them to make it the same. So let's choose a width and perhaps go with the biggest one of the 4. So let's say this one. Okay, so we know that this is the size of the card. Ideally, when you're designing this from scratch, you would obviously just use the same card and copy it, but we are working with an existing design. So we'll move this here. So I've just brought the box over, and now what's great with the alignment and the snapping of Canva, because I've placed this box here, it gives it something to latch onto. Right. So this one actually looks to be the same size, which is great. Saves us a bit of time. And let's go to the final one. Definitely smaller. Still grouped. So I clicked on it and I couldn't select anything. That's because it's grouped. So click into it, ungroup. Click into the back box, make it the same width. Same thing with this top box. Okay, so now they're the same size. Let's grab a different square, recheck our left and right spacing. It's a lot of minute details to create a design that's really, that feels nicely spaced, it feels professional, it feels aligned. But it's definitely worth it. So our spacing is good. Let's go ahead and group them again. So select all, then I'm going to press Command or Control Z, or G to group them. 4 of them grouped. Let's align them to top. And, oh, looks like they already are. Excellent. But space them horizontally. Okay, so we have 4 boxes, and what's good too is now we're guaranteed that they're all the same width. We just guaranteed that. And laid bare to us are some other issues with spacing. So let's figure those out one by one. Ungroup that, ungroup that, ungroup them all so I can work with the individual elements. Now the 4 blue squares are nicely aligned. There's no difference there, so that's good. They're all the same sizes. Now these 4 here, now I want them to be centered, and looks like there's some issue around them not being centered. So we'll use the same trick that we used for the title here. Make sure it's center aligned, the text itself, and then just widen the text box to the entire width so that we can be absolutely sure it's in the center. Of course, you could just take the text box itself and then use the position to align it in the center, but this tends to be just quicker and a bit more foolproof. Now this text itself is left aligned, so we'll put that into the center so it's all the same. Okay, so they're all centered, but clearly we can see that this looks like these two are not aligned vertically, so it creates a really weird bouncing pattern where our viewer has to work harder. So let's go ahead and select the 4. Again with position, we're going to be using this button to death, and we'll align them to the middle. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Immediately looks so much more balanced and ready. Now we can see here clearly, because everything's kind of lined up, that this box is not aligned with the bottom. So I'll be able to grab the bottom, drag it up, and you'll see as the pink line appears when it's lined up with the bottom ones. Very useful within Canva. And there we have it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we made sure the spacing was the same on the outside. We made sure all the boxes themselves were the same width, so that when we do space them out, it'd be notable, or it'd be appropriate. We made sure the text itself was centered by increasing the text box, then centering the text, and then making sure it's vertically aligned, representing 4 beautifully spaced aligned boxes, looking very professional, coming from this place here. So much improved. Now, the place where you can have some fun is if we really want them to take promo 3. This is where you can actually break alignment to create visual interest and call it out. So what I mean by that is take it and just make it a little bit larger. Right? Take it and just make it a little bit larger. Because now, visually, which one does your eye go to? Immediately, because it's, duck, duck, goose, duck. This is the one that we see. This is the one that we note. So we can actually get everything perfectly aligned and then purposefully break that alignment to cause visual interest. Kind of a nice thing. Now this goes into color, which is a different course, but again, if you even, to further really promote it, changing one color will make it stand out all the further. So small little trick with alignment where there's actually a useful case for breaking it to cause visual interest. Okay, so last one here, and this is very much the same for what we talked, but we'll just go through it one more time. A lot of this should be familiar to you by now. So obviously the title is just kind of floating in the middle. We want to ensure that it's purposeful, and that means it either is left aligned, and actually we don't have a left aligned one yet, so let's go with that. So that's the leftmost photo, which if we bring out our square, is spaced evenly on the left side as it is the right. I just want to double check it. Okay, that's the spacing there. Nope, in fact not. How about that? Visually, I would have said that was aligned. So, doesn't matter how much you design. Eventually, you should always be checking your work. Okay, so we'll have to do a alignment of the 3, but let's get the text pieces themselves good. But let's left aligned text. I like that this time. It's purposeful. It lines up on the left side. There's a lot of negative space to balance it. Looks good. Now the text for the people and the one above, it's sort of strange where this one's kind of butting out, so we can first fix that, get that nicely aligned to the middle. And then now we have left aligned text and center text. You can see how those two are competing, right? It doesn't feel like it's unified. It's not part of one box. So instead, we can select this, and we'd have 2 options. So we can either center it, left aligned it, so everything's on the left line, or we could select it all and make sure that it's centered. And at this point, this becomes a design decision. Do you want it left or do you want it in the center? As long as it's uniform, doesn't matter. At this point, it's design. What would you like? In this case, though, since the text is left aligned, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the left. Now I click left, and you'll notice that the subtitle didn't. So I'm going to come into that specifically and fix that up. So let's do this to all 3 so that the individual pieces of text are lined up. Now let's put into 3. Now another minor cheat is I don't mind adding, if you imagine a kind of invisible card that exists around that, because really that's what we're kind of designing here with these. And you can imagine with your website or any other kind of design program you've used, but mostly with web, if there was an imaginary card here, the photo could make sense to go across the entire width, but with the text, you could imagine there being a bit of padding. So as much as it's now aligned on the left, what if we added a bit of padding, just tucked it in a bit, as if that was a true card like on a website. So let's try that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I tend to like that because then it becomes underneath. It comes contained within the photo. And again, this is just a design decision at this point. Like we are respecting the general rules of alignment. So now you can play around. So we're going to move this over 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Move this over 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to check 1, 2, and 3. We want to make sure everything's aligned as much as possible. So we'll grab these 3, position, and I can't click top. That means it is aligned to the top. We'd want to make sure that it wasn't off. We want to make sure it's really nice and squared up. In addition, if we bring out our square just to measure, let's make sure that the text within the various boxes are good. That looks good too. So 1, 2, and 3. I think it could do with being a bit closer to the actual subject matter. Now the photos themselves do not seem to be aligned, so let's go ahead and align them. So I'll select the 3 photos, position, and middle. Now because they're the same height, it wasn't going to much matter. I could have chosen bottom or top, but 1, 2, and 3. Now I am not entirely certain that the sizing, if I remember from when we started, I'm trying to remember if we corrected it or not. That's right, we corrected that one. Curious if the sizing is the same between the 3 of them. They are not. So in this case, same trick as before. We're going to want to, because they're the size that we want, and the spacing on either side is good. We'll select it, group. Select it, group. Remember, grouping's not a big deal because you can just ungroup it, right? So never be afraid to do that to get alignment. Select it, 1, 2, oops. Seems like that didn't. Let's try that again. Nope, my keyboard shortcut's not working. For some reason, it's not allowing me to group these. So I'm not going to be able to do the alignment that I want. So that's okay. Lots of ways to skin it. So let's do this in a different way. So 1, 2, 3. We'll get the photos where we want, and then we'll readjust the text underneath to make sure it's good. So space evenly, horizontally. So the only one that moved was the center one. And then let's see how small we can get our square. Because what I'm going to do is, I'll tell you what, one way to do it would be we could zoom in a whole lot, get a very tiny square that matches up to the side of the photo. So you'd go photo to the side of the text like that, and then use this to space the font itself, right? Because then now, because the left of this square, let's make that a different color so we can actually see it, touches the left, and then it touches where the text box should be. So now I can bring that over here and make sure that this is aligned that way. And same for this one here. So this is one way to do it. I'm going to undo it and then show you another way. The main key is just to get it so it's the same spacing. How you approach it, totally up to you, right? And actually this one is already kind of good to go. However, let's say they're not the same. My other suggestion for you to do would be, so grab these 2, position left, grab these 2, position left, grab these 2, position left. Now we know the 3 of them are all perfectly aligned on the left side. Because of that, we have options. So click the 3 texts and now move them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we know those are all the same. So tons of ways to figure that out. Tell you what, the last thing for this kind of goes back to the spacing lesson. If you go back to that one, I'd like to bring the names a little bit closer together. The first name and the last name, so it's a bit more associated. I'll go 1.13. You just have to it's very important to make sure that we do the same for all 3, so it's all the same content. And there we have it. So from chaos and disorder and kind of hard to follow along to beautiful grid, well aligned, comfortable, then so much better designed. So Canva has some fantastic, easy to use tools to get alignment, and I highly recommend you use them all the time. Constantly check and recheck, make sure everything that should be aligned is aligned. Don't be afraid to break alignment if it serves the design and it's very purposeful. It can be a fun way to subvert expectation or create visual interest. But always come from a place where it's already well aligned and you know it's great. Then start to play and have fun. So use the tools where the pink line of Canva itself, as you drag it around, is going to try to help you. Grab any number of tools, use the position button on the top, get everything aligned, get everything looking stunning, stellar, and ready to present. See you in the next lesson.